food and music. Sitting around the table with family, enjoying the festive food together, also eating with your hands intends to give more flavour, tell everyone how you handle it and it feels. People use times, casual, oh, that doesn't actually make sense. But you went through that, which is fine. But then I would have wanted examples. I wanted examples of how some things have stayed with us in modern times and have developed. Yeah? So things that might have come into modern culture, like fish and chips, started out with its roots in religion and fasting within the Christian society, to a point that in the modern day the religious side has been forgotten, but Friday night in Britain is traditionally fish and chip night. And that what started off as a way of fasting has now become part of our culture. Gastronomy, culture, religion, all in one. Yeah? Give examples. Easter, Christmas. Give some examples of food that's associated with religion. Maybe give examples how some of that has crossed religions and cultures and is eaten by, in modern times, a number of people without realising what the origins are. We live in a country here, England, where we are very open to, in terms of gastronomy and culture and such like, to people's food and cultures from other countries, and our own cuisine has developed taking that on board. And that is something that could be talked about. Yeah, we have large ethnic communities in Britain, and much of their food culture has been adopted to a certain degree by the British culture, to the point that we have our own curries maybe. Yeah, a lot of the curries that appear on a British menu you wouldn't find on a menu in India, because they're dishes that have been developed to suit our taste, to suit the taste of the British, and have now been adopted as part of the culture, to the point that chicken tikka masala, some people would say, is now our national dish. It isn't actually, but it shows how popular it's become. Yeah, and when I'm talking to you, I'm looking at you. Yeah, if I forget where I'm supposed to be, or I feel I've gone off it, I can look back at, oh yes, culture and religion. Yeah? Right, science and technology. Still very domestic, which is fine. Yeah, it's all very domestic. You can show here how various simple inventions have made life much easier for people at home and in the kitchens of restaurants and hotels with modern technology. Things like microwaves, fridges, cling film, yeah, all these things. But then you need to move it up a step. Then you need to talk about what's happening in industry at the moment, because then you're talking about emerging trends as well. You're talking about science and technology, and you're moving on into the emerging trend, and you can start talking about molecular gastronomy, sous vide, okay? Because this is something that's happening now. It's happening in more and more restaurants. It's becoming more commonplace. It's an emerging trend, and it's science and technology. Sorry? Who's trying to ring me? Withheld number. Sorry, guys. Hello? Hello? No? Okay. Right. Okay, so as I said, home technology is domestic. Okay? Move it into, that's fine, it's good. You have some very good elements to it. I'm just trying to tell you how you need to put it and how you need to present it, yeah? So, moving forward, bring in your beloved Heston Blumenthal. Use him as an example of someone who's innovative and using modern technology to push the boundaries of gastronomy forward, and give examples of that, not apple pies or pictures of food, yeah? The ready meal TV dinners have been around since the freezer was invented. Okay, the Americans were very big on frozen dinners that could go into the microwave, yeah, so they could sit and watch TV while they eat their dinner. TV sat in their lap. But technology's moved things forward. It doesn't need to be frozen anymore. We developed packaging, yeah, that is airtight. We can change the environment, the atmosphere within that packaging. Yeah, we're taking out the oxygen and replacing it with gases like carbon dioxide and nitrogen, so that food doesn't go off so quickly. It becomes sealed. We put elements into the food, things that will preserve its colour and its appearance, so that it still looks fresh, even weeks later. Yeah, and then you can microwave that. Okay, there's the science and the technology behind a ready meal. We're all chefs sat in this room. We don't need to be told how to prepare a ready meal or what a ready meal is. What you need to be telling us is about the science and the technology behind it. People can eat restaurant standard food at home. They don't need to go out for a curry or a paella or whatever it is they fancy. They can walk into a supermarket and they can buy a meal from just about any cuisine they want to have at home that night without having to cook, thanks to modern technology. Okay, so even this is okay. Science and technology, mass production of food. Food is produced on a massive scale. Technology that started off in mass production with the Victorians, etc., powered by steam engines, is now controlled by computers and on a massive scale, producing millions of items. Yeah, to go on sale all over the world. Transport, geography, food produced in canning factories in India can be on our shelves, yeah, thanks to modern transportation such as ships, container transport and planes, within days of leaving the factory. Yeah? Genetically modified food. This is good. I wouldn't have stood there and read all this out. I would have left that on the screen for people to read while they listen to you, maybe. Yeah? But I would have just briefly explained in layman's terms what genetically modified food is. Yeah? It's food that has been, as the name suggests, modified on a genetic level. So they're playing around with it at the level of genes or DNA, and they're changing food to make it more resistant to droughts or pests, so that we don't have to use chemicals to prevent these things. Okay, producing potatoes that are resistant to potato blight, producing tomatoes that are resistant to frost. Yeah. So I've just told you more or less what genetically modified food's doing. But I'm not stood here going, the GM foods or GMOs, genetically modified organism, is most commonly used to refer to crop plants created for human or animal consumption, using the latest molecular. Yeah, do you see the difference? Because I know about genetically modified food, I'm talking to you about it because I know about it. I've taken the time and the energy to learn something about it. However, it is controversial. There are a lot of groups that are objecting to genetically modified food, and genetically modified food is banned. Certain types of genetically modified food is banned by various governments, but it's creeping in slowly. Okay, farm foods. Oops. That's fine. Farms are getting bigger. Over the years they've got bigger and bigger. But now there's a trend, an emerging trend, for smaller farms producing food that is organic. Producing food for local consumption rather than large farms for export. There's been a re-emergence of farm shops and farm butchers. Now, the takeaway is nothing new. Yeah, that's fine. It talks about how food has gone from street food and then it's gone to takeaway, etc. But I would say that the emerging trend now is you have companies like Don't Eat, Just Cook, where at the touch of a button using a computer on the internet, you can order from a range of takeaway restaurants in your vicinity, have it delivered to your door, and order online. Okay, so that's where we were a number of years ago. Well, we've moved on now. Technology and lifestyle changes, because we're all far too busy to cook, has moved it forward to the point where you don't even need to phone. You just go on the computer and you can order your food and it gets delivered to your door. Piping hot and any cuisine that you want. Okay? So that's technology, media, science, emerging trend, lifestyle change. Yeah? Being individuals, ideal. Okay, Mary Berry, she's made baking very, very popular. Everybody wants to bake. You've got Heston Blumenthal, the king of modern cuisine, doing things that nobody else has done before, using science and technology to prepare food on a molecular level. Give examples of the sorts of things that they do. Jamie Oliver, yeah? Jamie Oliver, modern campaigner. He's campaigned on sustainable fishing. He's campaigned on school meals. He's opened restaurants where they train young kids who have failed at school. Gary Rhodes, yeah, one of the first pioneers of British food in modern time. So, you know, talk about what's on there. Don't hear some celebrity chefs and read the names out. Pick a few out and say what they've done. Nigella Lawson, she made cooking sexy. Yeah? James Martin is probably the highest paid TV chef in this country for the Saturday morning show. This guy owns a Formula One car which he drives on a track. The guy is worth a fortune. Here, some good screenshots, but wasted opportunity. Yeah? Programmes like I would only have done one screen of MasterChef. I would perhaps had on there Great British Menu. Members of the public seeing fine dining, how it's done on their tellies, seeing the top chefs in the country, not celebrity chefs, top working chefs in the country, competing, being innovative, using technology, media, technology, emerging trend, yeah? Give me examples of some of these programmes and talk about them. You stood here, you went, like MasterChef and Young MasterChef, and then it was gone. You've got to have a little bit of enthusiasm for what you're doing, even if it's not real. Again, this is good. And I'm glad to say I don't own a single one of those books. No, I don't. Okay, so this is good because it just gives an example. This is a small example. In fact, I would probably have made those pictures smaller and put more on there. Had maybe 200 different books and magazines on there and said, look what's available. Yeah? Even with modern technology and the internet and searching for recipes, which you never mentioned. If I said to any of you guys, get me a recipe for such and such, you wouldn't sit there and write a recipe and try and figure one out. You'd just go straight on there and find one on the internet, wouldn't you? Who needs cookbooks when you've got the internet? But we still buy cookbooks and magazines by the million. Media. Yeah? Geography and transportation. Okay, so what does good transportation mean to us as chefs? It means that we can get food from all over the world at the peak of its freshness due to efficient transport systems such as ships, planes, trains and trucks, but also because of modern technology we can sustain that freshness. We can freeze the moment they were picked so that fruit doesn't ripen any more than at that point. so that when we get it in this country, it ripens and then it's right for us to eat. Okay? That's what transport and science and technology have done for gastronomy. We can get just about any ingredient we want in or out of season. We don't have to wait for it to be in season in this country. We can get it. When the asparagus season's finished here, we start getting asparagus from Peru. Geography used to affect cuisine in that you could only cook what was in season and what was local. So your geography, where you live, limited your cuisine and what you could cook. But now, thanks to transportation, geography doesn't really affect us the way it used to, because we can cook anything that we want. We might have to pay for it, but we can still get it. Here, you talked about vertical farming, but failed to give us a photograph of vertical farming. Instead, we've got some aquaculture, some polytunnels, and a greenhouse that looks like it's in the desert. But no mention of what was in the pictures. Pictures didn't relate to the text, and you didn't relate to the pictures. Yeah? But talk about technology, aquaculture, raising fish, sustainability. This was good. Yeah. Emerging trends. This is back in fashion. We've just talked about being able to get food out of season from all around the world. Yes, you can do that, but the emerging trend at the moment is that restaurants and hotels are cooking food that is produced locally, which means it has to be in season. So whole websites have been devoted to it, Eat Seasonably, alerting people to what's in season, encouraging people to eat locally produced food and reduce food miles, thinking of the environment. Emerging trends. If we all ate seasonably and ate locally, we wouldn't need as many ships and trains and planes flying around the country with food in them. So you've got free range here in under geography and transportation. Didn't quite understand the link. Free range is more sustainability and emerging trends. Okay, what I was trying to get at here is what you had here was more media lifestyle changes. It wasn't an emerging trend. As I said, the Americans have been eating dinner in front of the TV since the 50s. When food was frozen in foil trays and heated in the oven. It's nothing new. But good cuisine in a more relaxed environment. I mean, once upon a time, if you wanted good food, you had to go out, shirt, tie, maybe a suit or whatever to get to a nice restaurant. But good quality food is more freely available. And people do use, and they always have done, use restaurants and coffee shops and bars to socialise. More and more places are starting to include Wi-Fi, the use of social media and such like to promote their businesses. I've seen one of my students had to come up with at level 2, had to come up with a concept for a restaurant. And one of the things that she wanted in her restaurant was on each table there would be a tablet. The tablet would be linked to Wi-Fi or whatever, but also you'd use the tablet to order your food. When you touched the dish, it told you all about the dish, nutritional content and everything, blah, blah, blah. Things like that. That's people having ideas for future trends. Heston, he's an emerging trend, he's a future trend. but you didn't really tell us how and in what way. More leisure time, again, is lifestyle change, isn't it? Have we got more leisure time, or are we busier? We're a lot busier, haven't we? We've got, if anything, we've got less leisure time. But what we want to make more efficient use of our leisure time. Yeah, which is why everything has to be instant. Everything has to be available and quick. Because people have less leisure time. The money isn't going as far as it used to. So, value for money and quality at the moment is important. You can frame that as an emerging trend. People have less spare cash or disposable income, yeah? So they're looking more for more value for money and quality. They want it all. They don't want quality. Normally means more money. They want it all. They want quality and value for money. And more places are starting to try and cater for that. I can give you an example of a Michelin-starred restaurant who says, "We'll say, come and eat with us, and you can have a 3-course meal with wine at the cost of £50.
It's a buffet.
No, it's not a buffet. Emerging trends. Britain's Got Talent has got absolutely nothing to do with food. Nothing to do with food whatsoever. Okay? Maybe you're just a fan, I don't know. But emerging trends, where are the emerging trends here? These are brands that have been going for decades. What they're doing, what's the emerging trend about those fast food companies? Kids have always liked them because they put lots of salt and sugar in their food. What an emerging trend might be is that on a voluntary basis, a lot of these places are starting to put the nutritional value of what they sell on their menu. So when you go into KFC or you go into McDonald's or Burger King, one of them, you go up there and tell you how many calories, how much fat, how much sugar. That's an emerging trend because we're all starting to think more healthy. People want a healthier lifestyle, but it's harder and harder to do that because of companies like this. And because food that is produced is naturally high in salts and sugars and such like, because that's what makes food taste good. Take that out and people start thinking, I can cook better myself. So we've done that bit. Sorry to put it apart like that, Razu, but I know you want a good grade, but you've always got to remember in this that it's got to be linked into the gastronomy at all times, yeah? How it's influenced gastronomy or how something's been influenced by gastronomy. It's always got to be about the food. Yeah? That's what it's all about. It's not about trucks and trains. Yeah? Does that help? Is that helpful? Yeah, I wasn't trying to pull you apart. Yeah, I just think you can do better. Yeah? So I'll let you do that again. I'll let other people go before you so you can have a look at what other people are doing, yeah? So, Addy, see, does that help you a bit? Yeah, so know your topic so you can talk about it. So you can talk about it fluidly and not have to be standing reading it. Yeah? Just if you want, have a card with bullet points on it. And those bullet points could be, you might say emerging trends and just have little bullet points that you want to talk about. Internet, fast food, whatever, yeah? But you need to be able to talk about it. Does anybody else want to have a go or do you want to wait now? Yeah? You prefer to go away and... okay, that's not a problem. I noticed Michael and Jan chickened out after saying, yeah, we've got our presentations ready. Where are they? Yeah?
Jan says Michael.
Time to dig deep. They normally come in pairs, and it's never too late to grow a pair. Okay, guys. So, do you want to do some work on your